Police say he's defrauded around a dozen women, nearly all of them he met online. His name, Michael Richard Kent.
His victims say he follows the same pattern with all of them: online contact, dating, then forgery, fraud, and theft. And then police say he started robbing banks. KXLY4's McKay Allen joins us with this special report. Internet Casanova.
Yeah, this is something we've been looking into for a very long time. This is a guy who's been charged with over 20 felonies, spent time in prison. He met his alleged victims online. He would court them, date them, then steal from them. Now the FBI is involved. He faces numerous felony charges. His former girlfriends say this Casanova's web of lies, his house of cards, has finally come crashing down.
This guy is a piece of trash.
And I think that he is evil.
His name is Michael Richard Kent. He's a convicted felon, a serial con man, police say a bank robber. He's also undisputedly quite the ladies' man.
There was something about his personality.
This is Heather Blair.
So at our age, it's difficult to meet people, around Spokane, and you don't want to meet somebody at a bar.
Early in 2009, disgusted with the Spokane dating scene, Heather turned online.
At that point in time, I was kind of having a pity party for myself because I really wanted to find a man and have a family, and so I was kind of vulnerable.
After a month on Match.com, they met.
He swept me off my feet. He knew exactly what to say. He treated me like a woman.
He seemed nice.
He's handsome, and he made me laugh, and he listened to me.
And he had money.
Had cars and Jeeps. He led me to believe that he was a wealthy person.
They met in February. By spring, their relationship was getting serious. There were weekends on the coast, fancy dinners. He seemed nearly perfect. By the summer of 2009, he'd moved in with Heather. They were planning their future.
We would build our own house together so it would be ours.
And he was so motivated. He was even getting up early to train for an Ironman.
Getting up at 4 a.m. and going to bike or swim or run.
Heather's dream of a life, of a family, was falling into place.
At what point did you really know something was wrong?
When I came home and he was gone.
It was August 14th, 2009. Heather'd been out of town. She came home and Michael was gone. Days went by. He wasn't answering his phone and he wasn't stopping by. One day Heather started looking at their cell phone bill and noticed a number on it she didn't recognize, a number Michael had called. Heather dialed the number. And on the other end of the line, this woman, Melissa Thompson.
I got a phone call last August from a woman who called me and left a message on my voicemail and said, I have some questions about a Michael Richard Kent.
10 years ago, Melissa met Michael online. They dated. He wined her, he dined her. They moved in together. They even had a son.
And then he just disappeared. I came home one day and he was gone.
Vanished.
That's when I checked my credit report.
To her horror, things were not right.
He had been using my name, opened a few accounts.
Credit cards, bank accounts, several $1,000s, she says, spent in her name.
It just this huge mountain just collapsed on me.
She had told me what he had did to her 10 years ago with opening credit cards in her name. She had to file bankruptcy.
And Melissa told Heather she should check her credit report too.
Things were not right.
Credit cards she didn't open were open.
So there was 3 accounts that he opened in my name through the internet.
And those cards were racking up charges.
Close to $15,000, $20,000.
And as she dug deeper into the background of Michael Richard Kent, she found more, much more.
As more unraveled, I got angry.
Michael Kent has at least 3 ex-wives in at least 3 states. Law enforcement sources say he's defrauded women in Stevens County, in Kootenai County, in Missoula, Montana, and several in Spokane County. In all, law enforcement tells KXLY Michael Kent may have defrauded up to 12 women in the past 10 years.
Before he leaves one, he will have his next one lined up.
And authorities believe he has as many as 9 children with these women. He also has a rap sheet longer than most of his relationships. Everything from felony forgery for writing bad checks in Stevens County to theft in Skagit County.
He was living a double life.
And to add insult to injury, during the time he was dating Heather, he was married. Those early morning Ironman training sessions, there was no Ironman. Heather later learned he was leaving to spend time with his wife.
I was sick, physically sick to my stomach.
That's a common feeling among these women.
I thought I was going to throw up.
Another victim, we'll call her Mary, doesn't want to be identified. She met Michael online, dated him for months.
I did notice that he had a wad of cash. You know, it appeared that he paid in cash.
She met Michael in August of 2009, about the time he left Heather. He didn't steal any money from Mary. Instead, police believe he just used her truck to rob banks.
Numb. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
On December 16th, Michael showed up at Mary's home.
My son said that he had a wad of cash in his hand at that time and that it was a big thing of cash. They shut the door behind him and locked it, and then he handed it to my son and said, "Hey, how does it feel to hold $9,000?
On that day, just minutes before, police say Michael Kent walked into this Chase Bank in Spokane, handed the teller a note saying he had a gun and wanted money. He walked out with wads of 20s and 50s. Then on Christmas Eve, court documents allege that Michael Kent robbed this Numerica in North Spokane with a similar note and got away with $1,300. Then in January, in Coeur d'Alene, police believe the man who robbed a Washington Trust Bank, the man in these surveillance pictures, is Michael Kent. But on February 4th, Kent's carefully crafted persona came tumbling down.
What happened February 4th?
He got arrested at my house.
Arrested on charges of bank robbery and ID theft, a swath of destruction in his wake.
I mean, I can't even describe to you what that feels like. You know, I am humiliated at the fact that I fell for this.
An ever-growing web of lies.
Oh, I think he is sick and twisted.
I just couldn't believe that this was happening to me. It was just like a nightmare.
Two notes here. Kent's victims say he told them that he was part owner of Gorton Construction in Coeur d'Alene. Now, we spoke to Gorton. That is not true. He worked for Gorton for a few weeks, but was fired after the company says they learned he was forging business checks. He now faces felony charges in that case. And finally, his victims say he shared an elaborate story about his military prowess, that he served in Iraq, that he was shot down over Baghdad, was barely able to make it out alive. So far, we have been unable to corroborate that story. So it is a web here. He faces charges, bank robbery charges, goes to trial on June 14th.
And we're still hearing from women who have been involved.
Right,
with
women
him.
we didn't know about before, since the promos for the story started airing, have started calling us saying, "Hey, I dated him too. I dated him too."
And one who's even married to him allegedly.
Yeah, it's insane.
Wow, sure is. What a story.